Hey everybody, welcome to week 3. Short video today, talk a little bit about our discussion board from last week, some tips for this week, and then where we're headed next week. So let's start off talking about the quotes you selected from our 3 literacy narratives that we read by Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, and Sherman Alexie. I had asked everybody to pick out quotes that resonated with them, something that really kind of stuck with you when you read it. And the reason why we want to do this is because when we read these quotes, the stuff that sticks with us, we want to take a closer look and see, how did the author do that? How did they create such an effect through their words, through their sentence structure, through their use of language, so much that as a reader, it actually impacted us? Because when we pull that apart, when we analyze those sentences or passages, we can start to use those same strategies in our own writing. So it goes back to this basic idea that the better reader we are, the better writer we will become. And so oftentimes through our reading, we'll have something kind of stick with us, something resonate or kind of hit us, but then we just keep going. We don't think about or analyze, why did that have such an impact? How did the writer create that? And so in our discussion board, you guys explained the impact of those passages. Most people stuck to the idea of theme and character development and what the passage actually meant. And I want to dig a little bit deeper to show how this can influence our own writing as we draft Essay 1 this week. So I've chosen a few passages from the discussion board that you guys picked out as powerful ones, and I want to break them apart in a little bit different way that talks and looks at sentence structure. So here's one from Frederick Douglass that a couple students chose. I was now about 12 years old, and the thought of being a slave for life began to bear heavily upon my heart. Okay, let's break this apart a little bit. I was now about 12 years old. He gave us a very distinct period of time, an exact age. At that point, as the reader, most of us can think of ourselves as 12 years old, right? We connect for that for a minute. So it's really important that we give specifics. So in your own literacy narrative, not just saying when I was younger, okay? Because that could be 2 years old, 5 years old, 15 years old. We don't know. Okay, so giving us specific times or dates or ages really helps put us in that same place as you were as the writer experiencing it. Okay, so we have this kind of idea of 12 years old, which has a bit of innocence built into it, right? And then all of a sudden, we have this really heavy statement, the thought of being a slave for life. Okay, so we have, it opens with 12 years old, very specific time, and then bam, holy moly, being a slave for life began to bear heavily upon my heart. So we have this kind of like, oh, 12 years old, and then, oh my gosh. Okay, so really the tone of that sentence shifts dramatically in there for the reader. Okay, so think about how can we make those contrasts as well in our own writing. So that was an example from Douglass. Malcolm X, here's one that a couple students selected. Fortunately, right outside my door was a corridor light that cast a glow into my room. The glow was enough to read by once my eyes adjusted to it. Look at the level of detail and description. All right, we can actually picture that because of the word choice and the details he's offered us in that passage. Okay, it wasn't just there was enough light to read by. Okay, it was actually a corridor light cast a glow. Think about that. Think about the imagery. And that was enough to read by once my eyes adjusted to it. We can experience that as the reader. We can feel it. We know it because many of us have been in a situation where we were trying to read when it was still dark. Okay? But he didn't just say, I kept reading with the little light that came in. It's really building that detail and description. It didn't take much, it's only a couple sentences, but it makes a great impact. So think about how you can add those own details and descriptions to create that imagery in your own writing. Help your reader see it, feel it, hear your experience experiences that you're sharing in your literacy narrative. Okay, and a couple from Sherman Alexie here. A smart Indian is a dangerous person, widely feared and ridiculed by Indians and non-Indians alike. Wow, look at the word choice. Again, a real contrast. He pairs the word smart with dangerous. Two words that we don't normally put together in the same sentence. Okay? Widely feared and ridiculed. Again, that pairing, feared and ridiculed, not often put together. And then he finishes and emphasizes that contrast he's had by talking about Indians and non-Indians. All right, so simply pairing these two words that we don't typically put together create a lot of power. Smart, dangerous, feared, ridiculed. And then the final contrast of Indians and non-Indians. So think about your word choice and how are you maybe taking very simple words, but the way you pair them together is what creates the power in the sentence. And the final one we're going to look at, I am smart, I am arrogant, I am lucky. I am trying to save our lives. Simple sentence structure, okay? Nothing complex, nothing compound complex here. One of the strategies Alexie uses is repetition. I am, I am, I am, I am. Okay? A lot of times we would think, well, that's bad writing. But here, it sticks with us because it's so simple, but it's so powerful. And again, look at what he paired together. Smart, arrogant, lucky. And then at the end, what does that mean? Trying to save our lives. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily take this really fancy, flowy, beautiful, fancy long sentences to create stuff that sticks with us as readers. So I want you to think about these ideas, these passages, as you draft your own literacy narrative and think about how can I use those same strategies in my sentences, in my word choice, in my descriptions, in maybe repeating to create the power that will stick with us when we read your literacy narrative. All right, moving forward to this week, you will be revising your writing your literacy narrative and doing some revision through the process. First thing to do, go back to the prompt that's posted in week 2. Really, 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 really important. I can't emphasize that enough. Students think, oh yeah, I remember what I'm supposed to do. I'll just start writing. Okay, and then they end up with a draft that doesn't meet the requirements of the assignment. So make sure you go back to week 2, you review Essay 1 Literacy Narrative Assignment. Again, you'll be posting to the discussion board by September 9th. You'll see that you'll do some peer review. That's all described on the discussion board, and then your final draft is due September 16th. So please reread this carefully. Things like first person nonfiction narrative, picking out a few specific memories. Remember to include a couple outside quotes. Okay, and we'll talk about MLA formatting and in-text citations a little bit next week. For now, you can just get those plugged in. Looking for 4 to 5 pages. You'll notice the example I posted is a bit shorter, but the expectation is that you're 4 to 5 pages. So make sure you're getting that length. And if you need to, add in another memory, another story. Okay, and then again, the rubric. So make sure you review this carefully. Also this week, I've posted some tips for revising. So you'll draft your literacy narrative, and then before you post it, you really should go back and get to your, do one round of revisions, get to a second draft before you post it. Couple things to remember. This is your story. This is first person. I, me, my. Okay? We, us, our. Avoid second and third person. I should not see the word you, second person. I should not see the word you in this essay unless it's being used in dialogue. Now, this is really hard for students. It's a really bad habit. It's very tough for people to break this habit. You will write you, the word you, second person, and not even know you're doing it. Okay, so watch for those. You can do a Control F in your document and search for the word you. It's one easy way to find those and change those to I, me, my. This is my story. This is how I learned how to read and write. This is why it's important to me. Okay? This isn't why you should learn to read and write. This isn't why it's important in your life. Okay, so watch that. Intro, don't start with generic information. Dive right into your story. Draw me in to your experience. The idea of literacy is important for everybody's life. if you aren't literate, you will not be able to succeed at work and home. You will need to learn to read and write for your job, for your children, blah, 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 right? I could take that, your name off of that intro and put any student in America. Okay, I should be able to pull your name off of your paper and know that this is your paper. Avoid the generic stuff. We don't need it. We all know it. Remember, you're writing for a college level audience here. And so stay away. Now, in your first draft, that might be automatically what comes out, because in high school, we're often taught to write really canned or generic information. But I want you to jump in. I want you to draw us into your story right away. You might start right in scene for your intro, okay? You're looking for that hook. Look at the essays we read. Look at Malcolm X. Look at Frederick Douglass. Look at Sherman Alexie. Look at their intros. How did they start? Again, by becoming better readers, we can become stronger writers. All right, and then in the closing, offer the significance without being preachy, okay? Let the story show the significance, so you don't have to tell it to us at the end. So you're not like, here, see, reading and writing is really important to me. Okay, a great structure for closing, sometimes if you open in story in the middle of a scene, say something today about writing a college paper, and then you flash back through the whole paper, at the end, you could come and close that story that you started with. So that's a really nice way to bring it full circle. All right. And the closing doesn't have to be a clean resolution. So our plot chart always shows at the end of our stories the resolution. But, you know, we're mid-literacy still, right? We're improving our reading and writing every day. So don't feel like you need to kind of tie it up in a nice little bow. So those are the tips. They are also posted this week on Blackboard. So make sure you kind of keep those close, as well as keeping the Essay 1 assignment nearby as you're drafting and revising, and then you'll post those to DB Essay 1 at the end of this week. Next week, we'll be working on our peer review, as well as talking a little bit about MLA formatting and how to include your in-text citations in MLA format. So happy writing, and reach out if you have any questions or need any help. See you later.